I had a lawyer. If you tell me how insane, I'll digress for 1 second. Many years ago, circa 2002, let's say, the original name for Crank Yankers was Prank Puppets. It was a working title that Jimmy and I had, and as often does, working titles just sort of become the titles. It's sort of like saying, I got a puppy. We don't want to think of a name. Let's temporarily call the puppy Lance.
Or dog.
And after 2 months of calling it Lance, you realize, all right, it's just Lance. That's what it is. And so we kept calling our show Prank Puppets, and at some point we just went, all right, that's the name.
Right.
And then we're getting ready to get going with Comedy Central, and we had to have a long conference call with them and their legal team.
Don't you love when they say legal?
Yeah, look, the legal guys listened to the name, and they said it implies malice, and that if somebody sued us over it, and I said, it's got the word prank in it. Have you looked up the definition of prank? Harmless prank, child's prank. And then the other word is puppet, so we can take that one off the table. Now we have prank. And they said, prank implies malice. I said, no, it doesn't. It implies the opposite of malice. Now, prank gone wrong.
Prank gone wrong is hazing. I got it. If it said haze puppets, then I'd understand it.
Right, but it's prank. And then they pulled this bullshit, which always drives me nuts. This is what attorneys do. They go, look, this is John Eatman on the phone. Hey, John. Yeah, okay. I heard the title Prank Puppets, and I was concerned. Yeah. I was concerned, but what I did...
It raised a red flag.
But I didn't... I wanted to go check. So I walked down the hall. I went to Stu Lessman's office. Stu fell off of his chair. Stu literally had a coronary and hit the ground, like the horse in Animal House. He literally went down onto the floor, and I'm like, either you're lying or Stu's a complete asshole. There's no way you walk down the hall. They try to do this other thing, this good cop, bad cop, invisible lawyer, where it's like, I tried to keep an open mind, so I went and talked to Stu Lessman. Stu started projectile vomiting. Stu's an atheist. He's not a squeamish man. He liked blue comedy, but Stu literally clutched his heart like Fred Sanford and hit the ground. He hit the ground when I told him this, and Stu's an open-minded guy, he's a progressive guy. So when Stu, and I'm like, listen.
What'd you say, rope Stu in?
Yeah.
No, we can't. Stu's in ICU.
I was screaming into this phone. It was Jimmy and I in a hotel room in New York we're on this conference call for like 90 minutes. I was
kidding.
I can't believe there's no way. Look, it's like, if this ends up in court, you better hope they bring up the words prank and puppet, because that'll make the whole thing go away. And they literally wouldn't let it go. They just kept saying prank implies malice. This is a liability. We're not going to put ourselves out. We're willing to take risks here on Comedy Central, but not these kind of risks. Wow. And I was like, I can't wrap my mind around this. I couldn't figure it out.
But I've seen it. I know exactly what you're talking about. And they said, I'll give you an example.
I kept screaming, Stu Lessman's an asshole. Put him on the phone. There's no way you walk down the hall and talk to this guy. And he reacted this way. And they would not let it go. And after about 90 minutes of me going, my mind is swimming. I cannot believe this. They just went, Jimmy and I, we were hoarse. It just literally just went, oh, fuck it. We'll come up with a new title. And we hung up with them.
That's exactly what they do. I had a client who I gave an exclusive interview to a local affiliate of a news organization. And so the client gives the exclusive interview, and they tell me, okay, it's going to air tonight on the 11 o'clock news. So I turn on the 11 o'clock news. I want to see how the client did. It's not on there. I text the producer. Producer says, oh, legal. Legal got it. Legal said we got to talk to somebody else, this or that. Well, overnight, somehow the national affiliate or the national broadcaster of this affiliate found out about the story, grabbed it, and they used it for their morning show. So apparently they had no problem with legal. And so I just texted the producer back and said, how do you feel in the morning when you tell me legal stopped it locally, but your national affiliate grabbed it and they played it and you didn't get any credit for it? And so I got no explanation for it, none whatsoever.
I do know, look, you employ a small army of lawyers to just say no to everything.
Which is kind of the law. That's why they go to a lawyer.
That's how they keep their jobs.
Right.
And that's how the network never gets sued.
But I got to caution you. You can't do this. You can't do that. And God forbid you do
because
this.
There's no downside. They get to go back to their air-conditioned office. But if they give you a thumbs up and you get sued, then they could
I always say that about the criminal law, where you go to a prosecutor, you go to his boss, and come on, what about this? This makes no sense. This case makes no sense. Why are you doing this to this poor kid? And the default position always is, well, we'll just let the community decide. We'll go to jury trial. Really? The kid's going to face life?
And we'll waste a bunch of taxpayers' money.
Right, because you're never going to get second-guessed if the jury does something. But God forbid that you do it, and you make a tough decision and do what your job actually is supposed to be.
So Kesha, real quick, the Kesha update.
But what I have kind of cautiously been waiting for in this case happened this week with Kelly Clarkson, who came out in some rather strong language.
Now, I heard about that. So what you really need, look, if there's one, tell me if this is right. If there's one voice and one voice only saying Bill Cosby drugged me and raped me, and there's only one voice, that voice gets shouted down.
Right.
Because everyone else turns around and goes, he's a happily married man, he's America's father, look at him in that sweater.
Right, we know this Huxtable.
We got one crazy woman. Now we have 50 women saying it. Oh, boy, everyone, hearts and minds of America and jurors one day, everything just shifts.
Right.
So everyone went from, at the very beginning, all right, crazy old broad is past her prime who felt like it jilted because you were making advances toward Mr. Cosby and he rebuffed them, whatever. Now you're 100% right, and so is everyone else.
Right.
So with Kesha...
With Kesha, which was always tough because the music industry is even worse. You know this. I mean, the music industry has to be one of the most misogynistic industries there are. And the people who I knew about who were coming forward were not of A-level status who had encountered this guy.
But Kelly
Clarkson, and then Gaga has been unrelenting.
Kelly Clarkson basically said... they wanted me to work with him. I like working with everyone. I had to work with him. I didn't like him. She was sort of saying he was a bad guy.
And that she was blackmailed into working with him, which is exactly, it's amazing. She's echoing exactly what I've been arguing in the paperwork for the injunction. So that's helpful. Gaga's helpful. The Taylor Swift is helpful because all of these are people who have worked with this guy, understand it. And boy, when the only person who's come out in support of him besides his lawyer is his mom and his sister. Now, that's a small crowd, and that's not exactly a resounding chorus of support.
Is there a possibility, and does it work this way, where it gets to a point where Kelly Clarkson is subpoenaed and has to take the stand?
Yeah, that's absolutely possible.
Will we ever get that far down the road?
We'll see. We'll know. I'll tell you next week. We'll know a lot more by next week.
But when Kelly Clarkson, when you turn on TMZ and Kelly Clarkson is, they're playing an interview of hers that she did on a radio show saying she didn't like this guy. She didn't trust this guy. She was blackmailed and working with this guy. He wasn't a good guy, which you can read between a few different ways. That, as an attorney, that's good news.
Yeah, that's like the person calling up and saying, I was at the table when the Marriott execs were passing around the video and making fun of her body.